Hey, what's up, YouTube? I just thought I'd pop in and share a quick encouragement for those of you who perhaps have been praying and hoping for something, and you've been sort of like doubting, or you've been wondering, like, does God even hear my prayers? Or is there anyone even out there who cares for me at all? And you might be saying, I've been praying for so long, I've been hoping for this one thing for so long. It might be futile, meaning it might be pointless doing all this praying and hoping. Maybe no one really cares. Maybe no one really hears me. And I'm here to remind you that in my experience, definitely you are being heard. I mean, maybe perhaps you watching this video is a reminder that, hey, you are being heard. You're not alone. I know it is challenging and very difficult for you with whatever it is that you're going through, but that there is hope, that there is help, and you don't have to go it alone, right? But I think the moment that we think that we're going through our own life struggles, like by ourselves, or maybe you're with people, but you feel like they can't really understand the things that are going through your head, or maybe how you behave, or the things that you're struggling with. Maybe you're not being very open to them and sharing, because again, it's you're prejudging. You're thinking people might not be, they might not understand me. They might even judge me more. Or maybe you, in the past, maybe you did share about a struggle that you had, and you felt that you were condemned, or you were judged, or you were criticized, and it makes it so much more difficult to just share. Maybe you can just use this time to, I guess, reflect and know that maybe, again, the point that you're watching this video is it's evidence that you are being heard. I mean, I'm sharing my own experience where those, and might encourage you, but those times where you feel like you're most alone and you're not being heard are the times when you're possibly also thinking of a lot of things that are messing around in your head, like it's messing you up. Like you're thinking, God doesn't love me, no one loves me, life is cruel, life is designed to hurt me, life is evil. And then I would offer you to consider those times in your life where you experience love, where you experience joy, where you experience gratitude, where you experience those tender moments. Maybe it's the birth of your child, maybe it was your wedding or someone's wedding, or maybe it was that dream vacation that you prayed for. Maybe it was you healing from an illness. Maybe it was you praying for something and it was granted. And I think as human beings, we have a tendency to forget all those blessings when we're in the middle of something that's not resembling an ideal picture of the life that we have, the life that we want inside, when outside it's not matching up. And now we're thinking, like, maybe God isn't there, maybe life is really bad, maybe life sucks. I mean, I've had a push and pull struggle, like this whole going 6 months of this pandemic, being locked down here in Manila. And then I would get glimpses, and this is what's wonderful. That's why I think God's voice is gentle, God's voice is tender, God's voice is it's soothing. It's not something that forces you to have to see things. It's not something that says you have to do this, you must do this. But I think it also happens for those of us who are aware, or is that right? You're acutely in tune to things that are around you, that sort of like reminds you. Like, I'm looking at my floor, I'm looking at shelves, and I'm reminding, like, hey, I'm just looking at shelves, I don't know why. It's like, this is something that you enjoyed before, setting these shelves up. This is something that you prayed for before, this air conditioner perhaps. I don't know, it could be anything. And then all of a sudden you're like, and now you're in the middle of a challenge, and like, what now? Do you forget all of these things that you were celebrating and thanking God in life for? Does this mean that you're left on your own and to fend for yourself, and that you've been forgotten, and your struggles is something that you're only going through yourself? There's always this tendency and temptation, I'll use the word temptation, for us to think that we're going at it on our own, by ourselves, even if there's people around. And I think a lot of people beat themselves up, especially if there's people around them and they're nurturing, they're caring, they're loving, they're encouraging, and yet they still don't feel good. They still feel like crap, and they judge themselves more, right? That's why I love this thing that I heard from Dr. John Demartini today, where he said, when you're beating yourself up, it just means that you've also been doing the opposite. You've been building yourself up. And now just be with me for a while, like with this concept, right? He said, if you're always building yourself up and you miss the mark, then you go to the opposite where you beat yourself up. And he says, like, and I'm just trying to understand this concept, but he's saying, if you're not constantly trying to build yourself up to an ideal you where you have to be, they say you be your best version in this, but what if you're not? What if you're constantly sinning? When I say sinning, the literal meaning is missing the mark. Like you're constantly missing the mark because you're upset, you're fearful, and then you think like, who is it that's rejecting me? Is it God that's rejecting me? Or am I rejecting myself because I created a God that has a perception of who I should be or who I must be, and when I'm not hitting the mark of this God that I created in my head, I'm not saying that God doesn't exist, right? But I'm just saying as a metaphor, then I punish myself. But what if, that's why I talk about the belief in God, what if the way you see the God who created you or who's there, it isn't as a taskmaster who's constantly watching you and waiting for you to mess up and to whip you and to beat you and to hurt you? What if that image of God that you have in your mind is someone who's there with you, or someone who's like sitting beside you right now and just is supporting you whatever you're going through? But what if that image of God is also someone who constantly listens to your requests and grants them? But also those moments where this God who is, I think, who is kind and loving and peaceful and joyful, the moment that he sees you doubting yourself, what comes from him perhaps is encouragement. It's this still voice that says, hey, maybe the way you've been thinking about yourself is not helping you anymore. Maybe a new way of thinking about yourself would be beneficial for you. And then once you reach that stage, then you start aligning, and then you hear him say, this is where I've always wanted you to be, because this is where you experience me in my fullness, in my joy, my peace, my goodness, my kindness. But every time you're creating this fake world where you think you have to perform or you have to gain my approval, that's where you keep sinning. That's where you keep missing the mark. But it's something that you create in your head, and you beat yourself up so much for it. Like you literally make yourself suffer because this picture of what you created is not matching what you think you should be. And then it's always this process of you flagellating, self-flagellating, and you hurting yourself. But what if it was about celebrating? What if the abundant life was about being grateful and joyful and kindness, but also particularly being kind to yourself during those times when you just feel like shit, when you just feel like crap? What if it was precisely, grace was created precisely for that moment? I hope you guys keep on keeping on, and my prayer for you is that you get to create a mindset where you see your goodness and the goodness of life, but also you'll be able to let go of the victim mindset that says you are powerless, you are not enough, you can't change something in your life that's happening. Maybe it's not about changing those things. Maybe it's about choosing to see life differently, choosing to see yourself differently. And maybe once you start working here in your, we call it inner work, then you start seeing the outside world change as well. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I'm glad that you guys dropped by here in the channel. If you like this, please remember to subscribe. Please feel free to share the video as an encouragement to someone today. God bless.